getting back to loving one another. Another place I went was First John chapter 3, starting with verse 14. Uh, if we love our brothers and sisters who are believers, it proves that we have passed from death to life. But a person who has no love is still dead. Anyone who hates another brother or sister is really a murderer at heart. And you know that murderers don't have eternal life within them. We know what real love is because Jesus gave up his life for us. So we also ought to give up our lives for our brothers and sisters. If someone has enough money to live well and sees a brother or sister in need but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person? So,
Hmm.
another hard pill to swallow there. We got to get past our pride and our selfishness and focus on others instead of ourselves, serving others.
You think that's like something where you can start doing it and it gets easier to kind of swallow your pride, or you kind of lose that pride after a while?
I just think that I think it's part of your maturing as a Christian. Like I've already said 100 times, what where you kind of fall in your faith, how have you grown in your faith, and I think the further along in your faith that you go, like we've talked about before, you stop focusing on petty things, and at some point you start focusing on God and serving other people, and you're willing to do without some of the selfishness and some of the personal things that you might want because it benefits somebody else. And that's ultimately what you should be doing, is serving others and building others up. So I think in your salvation, I think the point comes as you mature that the focus starts coming off of you and it's on someone else. That's how I see it.
It seems like that's the way to build a world that would be the best world. If it were full of people just like that, I
Hmm.
think you'd have a. I don't want to say perfect world because we're talking about something that won't happen because there will always be unbelievers and probably more unbelievers than believers based on some of the stuff in the gospel. But I mean, if you have someone that puts other people above themselves, I mean
Hmm.
that's the goal right there because that shows love. And if you love God and you love your neighbor, like it's saying, I mean that's
Yeah.
what could go wrong. I guess is what I'm saying. What could go wrong besides petty squabbles every now and then? I guess because we're
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah, and I think that another important thing to remember too is I think regardless of how mature you are in your faith, you're going to tap dance with some of the characteristics of less spiritual people. Okay, like a spiritual infant or a spiritual child or a young adult. The people that are newer in their faith, that are very, in other words, in lack of better terms, that are very needy, and at that point, it's still about them, them, them. Um, I think even when you're mature in your faith, you still tap dance with that a little bit, especially the selfishness part. Um, Everybody is a little bit selfish at some point. I don't care who
Hmm.
you are, and you can't convince me otherwise that you're never selfish at any point in your life. Um, even if you're considered a mature Christian, because I was thinking about this today. Um, how about people that are you know well versed Christians, or very very godly people, but they dedicate time to, let's say, coaching baseball. Just use that example. Okay, they're still using time that could be used for ministering to other people or building other people up in salvation, but they're using that time for something that they personally enjoy, And not that I'm saying like you should eat, sleep, and breathe it all day long and not go to work and do all these things, but we all have time that we could dedicate to doing a better job. Is what I'm saying. And as much as I love baseball, if you're dedicating time to baseball that you could be using for God, there's a little bit of selfishness in there. That's all I'm saying.
That's interesting. Let me propose something back at you then. Will it then be incumbent upon you, if you were the baseball coach, to infuse a little bit into maybe your coaching? Or are
Yeah.
you reaching a danger zone when you start doing that? I don't see. Okay, here's the disagreement that I'm going. I'm just the reason why I asked you this,
Okay.
because I have the same conversation with the flip side uh, podcast that I do, Shop Talk,
Hmm.
because I would just infuse it with lots of the stuff. My wife's like, "All right, you can't do too much," and I'm sitting there like, "Woman, you're gonna keep me from spreading the word of Jesus," which is not what she's intending. That's
Hmm.
just that's the knee jerk for me. So I'm trying to get this stuff out here,
Yeah.
and but I think her thing is you can't hit people in the head with a club. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a game people like baseball, play baseball, but maybe try to incorporate some godly principles into it. Maybe throw a few things in there to let them know where it
Well,
came from.
I think that's the happy medium, Zach. Honestly, because I think God knows that we're going to do other things in our life. Okay. And that's why we have, like, you know, these different interests in things, whether it be baseball or football or hunting or fishing or these all these other things that could interest people, individual people. I think the important thing is that, like you said, you infuse God in everything that you do, um, and let His will take place in whatever those things are. And you should use it like a baseball coach. Absolutely, I think it should be used as a tool to be able to minister to other people. Now, in the world we live in today, we both know that would be a probably a no in some places. Um, but yeah, I think that's the happy medium. You should have God in everything that you do. I don't think you just turn God off because it's more convenient to not talk about Him.